Hi, my name is Rick Braa. I'm the co-founder and principal of AMP Services, a financial consulting and accounting firm in Seattle, Washington. So times have changed. Minimum wage and the employer mandates that are coming at us, they've changed everything. We can't manage things the way that we used to. We've got to make sure that we've got new ways of managing productivity beyond just managing labor hours. When we talk about tracking labor, you have to start with the goal of labor management. And there's really a few different parts of labor that you want to get your arms around. One is to engage the guest. You want to make sure that you create that buzz so that when they leave, they have something to talk about. You want to customize their experience. So sell them whatever you can that they want, that they feel taken care of during that time. And then you finish strong, that you get them to come back, because that's really the goal. The best way to build sales in restaurants and to manage your labor cost is really by having returning guests come back more often. But lastly, we have to trust our people but track their performance. So unfortunately, it's pretty easy to spend unwisely on labor. First half of the shift, first half hour of the shift, the last half hour of the shift, we tend to overspend. We're not very productive during that time. Then we understaff when we should be overstaffed, which is in the middle of the shift. When we're really busy, we try to manage our labor real tightly, and it really doesn't work very well. It needs to be when we are spending money and not trying to save money. So a lot of times we have mistimed staffing, and we have an unwise use of overtime. So we're not using overtime as an advantage. We're being penalized for it because it's coming to the wrong places. We've got some employee turnover and absenteeism. We've got low employee productivity. Sometimes we make our menus too complex, and it causes slow turnover at the table. So those are some of the ways that we see all too often of spending labor where we don't need to. So if you want to manage labor effectively, you really need to start with a strong sales forecast. In order to do that, you need to lay things out. You need a lot of data. You need to look at every day, how your hours of the day are laying out. How is a Monday? How is a Tuesday? How is a Wednesday? How's a Thursday? How's a Friday? How's a Saturday? How do those days of the week lay out? And then go back and look at your programs. But we need to evaluate what goes on with the economy at the same time. What's going on around us? What's happening with our businesses across the street? If we've opened a bunch of restaurants in the area, what's happening with the weather? Have we come off a 112-year historic rainy season where we've had an extra month of winter where it's affected us? If we have a large deck, what does that do to our business? How's that affecting sales compared to prior year at this time? So we need a lot of data when we do an effective sales forecast. But that is really priority number one. You cannot run great labor cost if you don't know where you're going. You can't run the business from behind. You have to run it forward. And that's really what great sales forecasting is. And then you've got to get buy-in of the team. So you don't want to stay in the same spot. Even if you're at a downtrend, you have an opportunity to turn it around. So you want to meet with your team, get their buy-in around the numbers, and then talk about different tactics and strategies to meet those sales forecasts. Then make sure when you go to do your schedule that you schedule a little lighter around that. Be nice and fat in the middle, really skinny on the shoulders. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later.